Ryan experienced a near-death experience. So I experienced a medical emergency where I thought I got spider bitten once or twice. The testing showed it was nothing else, but we couldn't confirm that. I was near death when they took me to the hospital and said surgery could save me. Naturally, I answered, "Yeah, save me," and entered. The next thing I remember is dropping out and falling asleep after they gave me the drugs. The first thing I remember is being in this other place. It was either the afterlife or spiritual realm. I was out of my body. In front of me was a soul ocean. I saw all past souls moving in all directions. It stretched beyond the eye, like a gigantic energy field flowing and waving. But it was souls, all humans. I saw them coming and going from Earth, from here, which is on the other side of the curtain, as they say. I had a general comprehension of everything. Movement had meaning. I could tell everyone was doing something meaningful. It was strange that I could see everything and everyone so clearly. I wondered, could I see one of these people? I focused on one individual. I glanced at a stranger. The woman appeared to be in her late 50s and had blondish hair. She turned and smiled and nodded when I saw her. I grinned and nodded in response. She seemed to know I was looking at her, but it wasn't weird. She seemed to know I was simply watching and looking about. It was mutual and didn't feel weird. Even in that moment, I could see that individuals were coming and exciting from different levels. One place appeared busier and more purposeful. I then saw a brilliant world or dimension or whatever you want to call it, and all I could feel was peace and quiet. But there was more, which I can't define, and a broad comprehension of things in that context, so much so that the tranquility I felt there transcended beyond me. It's just knowing that everything will be okay beyond here and everywhere. Our suffering, pain, sorrow, losses, is temporary and a minor portion of the broader picture we can't see. The big view shows everything is as it should be, which is hard to grasp. Our suffering and inability to understand why it would ever be okay makes it hard. Everything will be okay, but it's beyond us right now. After experiencing that side, I decided to return to Earth, to see what was happening. I vaguely remember that intention, but I ended up back at the hospital, out of my body. The only thing to do was check on my family in the waiting area, so I did. I hung out with them, listened to their chats, and even joined in. It's funny, my significant other was chatting to my aunt, and I was supporting the discourse by saying, "Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, you should listen to that," and so on. You almost know they can hear you. Everyone has a soul, so when one soul talks to another, you hear it. Something like that. When I spoke to my aware family members, I felt convinced that they could hear and understand me and that my words were not in vain. That gives me hope and optimism that my deceased family members and friends still see me, hear me, and communicate to me. Maybe not always. I don't expect haunting, but I know it happens. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that we move on and the individuals we've lost exist. Remembering that talk was fascinating. That chat my aunt was having with my ex didn't come to mind right away. Later, my ex and I had an important conversation. My ex and I discussed things. She complained about her mom beating her with scripture, making her feel bad and manipulating her by invoking the Bible. I told her, "Wait, you discussed this before." "We don't have to go over this again," said I. "You told my aunt about this. No idea where we were, but you told her this and she told you." "Yeah," she said. "No, honey, that's wrong. Remember," she stated, "you should learn the Bible better than her if she wants to, so you can counter her manipulation." I was remembering this and telling it to my ex when I looked up and saw this. I was like, "What? You can't know that," she said. "No one knows that conversation." "You weren't." "I was," I said. "I was. You talking about what?" "I was there." I said, "That's a terrific concept, you know. I thought that counsel was good." No, she said. "You had surgery. While you were in surgery, we talked in the waiting area." Like a bell, everything clicked, and I remembered that conversation. Everything about the waiting area sprang to mind. The chairs, the TV, the lighting. I had, "It's kind of dark," she answered. "Oh, they turned off the lights in one half of the waiting room because my aunt was complaining about it." "Oh, well, that makes sense." It was a powerful moment for both of us because it was great for me to remember that right then, and shocking to her because she knew I was out of my body and that my claims were true because I couldn't have known otherwise. After surgery, another evidence-related event involving my aunt occurred. I realized I wanted to stay well out of my body. I felt terrific and didn't want to endure and suffer back here. But then I had that idea, and I don't know if it was someone speaking in my ear, but I realized I needed to go back. I needed to return. I returned, even though it felt strange to have a choice. I could decide to stay if I wanted to. In my heart, I knew that wasn't the right or greatest choice. Like I needed to be here, I returned. I was unhappy to have to return, but I'm coming back. Well, it's time to let's get on with it. I say as I see my body. Time to return. I got back in and made myself get in the body and make it get up, which resulted in my sitting straight up on the recovery room bed and scaring the hell out of two nurses, since evidently I was supposed to be asleep, but they were like, whoa. They were supposed to wait for the patient to wake up before bringing me out. But it was too soon. My family was waiting for me, and the doctor stated, he's awake. Not supposed to be awake, but is. We'll bring him out. It was strange attempting to operate my body. While still on sedatives to go asleep, I was making my body work, which was strange. I likened it to using chopsticks since I'm still divided and making myself work. My vision was poor. Everything was brilliant and painful to my eyes. I barely opened my eyes when these voices said, "Hey, are you okay?" I startled nurses. I said, "I can hear you but not see you." "Where are you?" "Who are you?" They say, "We're hospital nurses." I said, "Well, I can't see you." The moment was frustrating. It was unusual that I could still see when I rested my eyes and didn't want to obsess about my eyes. When I closed my eyes, everything was so brilliant that I could see the room and the people in it since I was still half out and half in. I wasn't meant to be awake, therefore my soul's eyes saw better than my corporeal eyes in the room. I was wheeled out in that condition to the recovery area, where my family was waiting. They brought me out to my family in this hospital room, and I'm sure I looked funny because I'm going like this and trying to work my hands, and my body feels so foreign to me. However, I was still partly out and seeing things outside my body in that room. It's tough to explain, but I remember seeing family members at that point. Maybe it was the final time I could say anything because I might forget. Grandma spoke to me. She died long ago. She arrived and ordered me to tell my aunt, who was in the room, that she didn't want her to miss her mom. She urged me to tell her that she doesn't want her up at night sobbing for her, that she's okay, and that everything's okay. She needn't. She wants her to be happy. My aunt told me no one knew she stayed up at night crying for her mom many times a week. I was surprised to learn how much my aunt still felt over that loss, and I was glad I could send her a message from her mom. She was calmer afterward. That was powerful too. My aunt could tell I was talking to Grandma and awake in the hospital bed since I was half out of my body. I saw Grandma continuing chatting since I couldn't get into it. I saw my other grandma and others, but I don't recall everything. My relatives said I said certain things about other family members that they wanted to tell them, but I couldn't recall them. I remembered with my grandma, but not with my cousin or others, and I don't know why. I've always believed life is more than what we can see. I've always been spiritual, but having that confirmation has given me more serenity and the capacity to cope with whatever occurs, knowing everything will be okay. That phrase fails to convey how much I mean everything is going to be okay, and everything is okay. Even today, I struggle when things happen, and I lose someone and have to remind myself. I must actively remember what I know. But that's the effect it's had on me and will have on me for the rest of my life, that I know, and that even if I forget and go through it like a stranger, the people I've lost still exist. When I lose someone, I don't mourn like I would with ambiguity since I know they exist. I miss them, but not as if they don't exist. I know they're there and I'll be there again. This affects me in more ways than I can describe. It's hard to explain, but this peace and understanding that goes so deep in my soul sticks with me forever, making me happier, more hopeful, and more well-adjusted to life because I know about the other side, and that everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. Everything will be okay.